long, long ago, in a faraway land,
there lived a clever young girl called Shahrazad, who lived with her little sister called Dinarzad,
and her father, who was the vizier, chief advisor to the king.
the vizier loved both of his daughters very much.
And there was nothing Shahrazad liked better than to read stories.
And night after night, Shahrazad would keep her little sister awake, filling her head with these stories.
Now the king of this country was called Shariah.
Hail King Shariah! Hail King Shariah!
He lived for the beautiful life that he loved as he loved his own eyes.
Shariah was a great leader, courageous, big-hearted and strong. By his enemies he was feared, but by his people he was loved. One day, Shariah was at the palace window, overlooking the garden, when a secret door opened.
Shh! Masood! Masood!
I trusted my wife as I trusted the ground beneath my feet.
Curse life, curse the world, and curse all women!
Shariah went to the vizier and said to him, "Take that wife of mine and put her to death."
The vizier did this, for if he disobeyed the king's will, he would be killed himself.
The gates of the king's heart were locked like a prison. The king gave his word that from now on he would marry for just one night, and at sunrise the next morning he would order the headsman to cut off his wife's head. He continued to do this for 1,000 nights.
Till 1,000 young girls perished.
By now, Shahrazad had grown up into a wise, refined, and beautiful young woman.
One day, the vizier returned home from the palace.
Father, I have a favour to ask. I have a plan to save the daughters of the city.
You've been reading too many stories, my child.
I want you to marry me to the king today.
The headsman's blade is sharp. The ground beneath the palace courtyard stained red with blood. The sky above the palace is spotted black with vultures.
There are some things more important than life, Father.
I will never marry you to the king.
I am your daughter, and I will love you till the stars fall out of the sky. But I have my own destiny that has been shaped by God, and I must be allowed to follow it.
The vizier went to King Shariah.
Go to her, prepare her, and bring her to me at nightfall.
The vizier returned home to tell his daughter the king's will.
And Shahrazad went to her younger sister. Now, Dinarzad, listen closely to what I have to say. When I go to the king, I will send for you to stay with me in the bridal chamber. When you come, remember to wake me an hour before daybreak and ask me to tell you a story.
Sister, I will do all I can to help you.
At nightfall, the vizier led Shahrazad to the palace of the great King Shariah.
Hail Queen Shahrazad!
I have a sister. I would like for her to stay with me here tonight, so that I might say goodbye and enjoy her company one last time.
Shariah agreed, and Dinarzad was sent for.
Who came with all possible speed. An hour before daybreak, Dinarzad did as her sister asked. Sister, if you are not too sleepy, tell me one of your strange and wonderful stories to while away the night. For I don't know what will happen to you tomorrow.
May I have permission to tell a story, my lord?
You may.
Very well. Listen. In a city in Persia, there lived two brothers, one called Qasim and the other Ali Baba. Qasim married a widow who owned a shop bursting with fine goods. He soon became a wealthy man and lived a life of ease. Ali Baba, on the other hand, married a woman as dirt poor as he was. They lived very sparsely, and he was forced to scratch a living chopping wood in the nearby forest.
One day, when Ali Baba was in the forest, he noticed a band of horsemen riding towards him at great speed. Ali Baba was suspicious. He clambered up a tall, close-leafed tree by the cliff, where he could see without being seen.
Dismount!
Ali Baba counted the men and found that they numbered 40. From their dead eyes and shining daggers, he guessed that they were bandits!
The one he took for their captain passed under the tree and stood in front of the cliff. The cliff. Open sesame!
Immediately, the door swept shut. Ali Baba froze in the tree like a falcon fixed on its prey. Eventually, the door opened again. his horse.
Mount!
And they galloped off into the dust. Open sesame. Ali Baba was astonished to find a bright and airy cavern. Inside was a landscape of limitless riches.
The cavern had been a hiding place
For generations of thieves.
Ali Baba quickly scooped up as many gold coins as his pockets could carry and set off for home. Why, look at this.
Ali Baba, what have you done? You brought shame upon this house. You've lied, you've stolen, you've ruined everything. How could you? How could you? How could you?
Calm down and keep quiet. Wait till you hear what just happened.
He told of his adventures from beginning to end, and they agreed to keep the whole story a secret.
We're rich!
Don't be a dull wife. We need to hide the coins right now.
There's no use. I simply have to know how big our fortune is. I know. I'll borrow some scales from your brother.
If you insist, but remember, he who is silent is safe.
He who is silent is safe.
Ali Baba's wife fluttered over to her brother-in-law, Kasim, who lived nearby. As he was not at home, she asked his wife if she would kindly lend her some scales for a short while.
Certainly. Wait here while I fetch them. Now, the sister-in-law of Ali Baba was poor as a pebble and immediately smelt a rat.
They can barely afford a bowl of rice between the three of them, she thought.
What the devil could they have enough of that it needs to be weighed?
So in order to catch them out, she greased the inside of the pan with the scales.
I'm sorry it took me so long, my dear. My servants mislaid them. Ali Baba's wife rushed the scales home and began to weigh the gold. Then, whilst Ali Baba buried it, she returned the scales.
What's this? Ali Baba has enough gold coins to fill a pair of scales. Where did the penniless pauper get it from? Kasim's wife couldn't wait to tell her husband the news. Kasim, you think yourself a wealthy man, but you are mistaken. Ali Baba has far much more money than you. He doesn't count his gold as you do. He weighs it.
Instead of feeling happy for his brother's good fortune, Kasim was stricken with deadly jealousy and didn't sleep a wink all night. Before sunrise the next morning, he marched straight over to his brother's house. Ali Baba, my wife found this, stuck to the scales you borrowed yesterday. I demand an explanation.
Ali Baba realised that thanks to his dizzy wife, Kasim had discovered the thieves' treasure. So rather than risk all the thieves' gold, he struck a deal. He agreed to tell Kasim where he found the treasure, if he would promise to share it and never tell a soul.
Determined to get to the treasure first, Kasim set off the next morning with wooden chests loaded onto 10 mules. He followed the directions Ali Baba had given him until he reached the cliff. Open sesame. His eyes pored over the riches inside. Greed and longing so possessed him that he spent the day in open-mouthed wonder and clean forgot till morning that he'd come to take some of the treasure away. At last he snapped out of his trance and dragged as many sacks as he could to the door. Open semolina. Open sardine. Open sunflower. Open sultana. The more Kasim searched for the word, the more it escaped him.
At nightfall, the thieves returned to their cabin and noticed Kasim's mules grazing sleepily by the rock.
The captain marched straight to the cliff. The siege resolved to cut Kasim's body to quarters and display it inside the cavern. This would scare off anyone who attempted to break in. Then they mounted their horses, and set off.
Brother-in-law, please help me. It's late at night. My husband hasn't returned home from the forest. I'm terrified something dreadful has happened to him.
Sister-in-law, please stay calm.
wife returned home and waited patiently till midnight. At daybreak, she returned to Ali Baba's house, where her arrival was announced, not by her words, but by her tears.
Immediately, Ali Baba set off to the forest. When he approached the cliff, he saw no sign of Kasim or his mules. But he did see a pool of blood by the door, which chilled him to the bone. Despite Kasim's coldness towards him, Ali Baba knew that his brother must be very ill. So he found a cloth to wrap up the remains and loaded them onto his donkeys with 3 more sacks of gold and set off for Kasim's house in town.
The door was opened by Marjana, a clever slave girl.
Marjana, my life depends on your secrecy.
What's happened?
These 2 bundles contain your master's murdered body.
Merciful heavens!
Without being seen, we must find a way to bury him whole, as if he died of natural causes. For if the word gets round that he was murdered, his killers will come in search of me as his accomplice.
Leave it to me.
All right, but remember, he who is silent is safe.
He who is silent is safe.
The following morning, Marjana set off to visit a druggist and asked him for some tablets that would treat a deadly disease.
Who is ill?
Ah, it is Kasim himself, my master. We don't know what it is, but he hasn't spoken a word or eaten a crumb for days. Keep it to yourself, but it isn't looking good, I'm afraid.
By early evening, word had spread around the city that Kasim was on his last legs, and as neighbours watched Ali Baba and his wife entering the house with sad, downcast eyes, they were not surprised to hear the heart-rending cries of Kasim's wife and Marjana.
Who announced that Kasim was dead. First thing the next morning, Marjana set off to visit a poor old cobbler on the market square called Baba Mustafa.
He was so penniless, he had to work harder than anyone else, and his shop was always the first to open.
Good morning. Baba Mustafa, fetch your needle and thread and come with me quickly. But I must warn you, once we leave the town centre, I shall blindfold you.
What on earth are you up to, Marjana? I don't like the sound of this. I have my reputation to think about.
Don't worry, your good name is safe in my hands. Come with me quickly and fear nothing.
Marjana led Baba Mustafa through the town centre to the house where Kasim's body was.
She blindfolded him and led him to Kasim's house and into the room where the portrait body lay.
What a sight!
Baba Mustafa, I brought you here to sew the pieces of this body together. Once you are finished, I shall give you another piece of gold.
When Baba Mustafa had finished, Marjana led him back to the town centre, where she forced him to swear an oath of secrecy. He who is silent is safe.
He who is silent is safe.
3 days later, under the cloak of nightfall, Ali Baba,
His wife,
And their son
carried their few belongings
with their gold,
to Kasim's big house.
to live in wealth and splendour. Ali Baba gave Kasim's thriving shop to his son, with the promise that if he managed it wisely, he would receive the key to greater riches when he married.
But let us leave Ali Baba to the fruits of his golden fortune and return to the 40 thieves. When they returned to their forest hideaway, they were astonished to find Kasim's body and several bags of gold missing.
Somebody else knows the secret of the king. We must act without hesitation, or everything that we and our ancestors have sweated blood for will be lost. Tomorrow, I will go down into town and listen for talk of a dead man. When I track down his accomplice, I will put him to a slow and lingering death.
darkness means that today, my lord, the headsman awaits your command.
What an extraordinary story, sister. I would love to hear the rest of it.
You'll never guess what happens next.
Your Majesty?
Doesn't His Majesty want to know what happens next to Ali Baba? Or whether the cunning slave girl outwits the captain of the 40 thieves?
Vizier, come back tomorrow, at the same time.
Certainly, Your Majesty.
The day melted into night.
And an hour before daybreak, Dinazar did as her sister asked. Please tell me the rest of your strange and wonderful story.
May I have permission to continue the story, my lord?
Yes.
Very well. The captain of the 40 thieves disguised himself and set off, arriving in the city at daybreak. He walked and walked and walked
Until he came to the first shop that he saw open.
It was the shabby shop of Baba Mustafa.
Good morning, old man. I'm surprised to see you working so early. There's barely enough light in the sky for you to see your sewing. Is it possible that at your fine old age you have such good eyesight?
You clearly don't know Baba Mustafa. I may be as old as the crumbling earth, but I still have perfect eyesight. Not long ago, I sewed up the body of a dead man.
Really? A dead man?
Ah, you want me to speak, but you shall know no more.
Oh!
I demand that you show me the dead man's house.
Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. I was blindfolded. I couldn't see a thing.
Come, let me blindfold you again. We'll see if we can retrace your steps.
The captain led silence to the point at which my daughter was silent, and step by step, alley by alley, they walked until they came to Kasim's house, where Ali Baba now lived.
The captain sent the old man on his way and returned to the forest. There, he ordered the thieves to buy 20 mules and 40 large leather jars, one full of oil and the rest completely empty. Then he instructed them to grind their daggers as sharp as tigers' teeth, and then to load 2 jars onto each mule, and each climb inside a jar. When this was done, he returned to town, arriving just as twilight fell on Ali Baba's doorstep. Hello, sir. My name is Khawaja Hussain. I bought oil from a faraway place to sell at market tomorrow. Would it be possible to spend the night under your roof?
Ali Baba didn't recognise the captain through his disguise. Of course! My home is your home, my friend. Welcome.
Khawaja Hussain, or rather the captain of the 40 thieves, unloaded the jars and crept from jar to jar, saying, "Have your daggers at the ready. When the time is right, I shall return and give the signal." Then he slipped into town to join Ali Baba for supper.
Majana set about preparing a delicious meal. While she was cooking, the oil lamp in the kitchen went out. There were no candles or oil to be found in the house, so she picked up the oil pots and went into the courtyard to borrow some from one of the leather jars. When she drew close to the first jar,
The thief inside whispered,
Is it time yet?
any other slave girl but Majana would have bleated like a goat, but without so much as a twitch, she replied, "Not yet, but soon." Jar by jar, she tiptoed round, giving the same answer, till she came to the jar filled with oil. This way, Majana learned that there were 40 vengeful thieves in this house, and that the so-called oil merchant was their captain. She grabbed the oil she needed and raced back into the kitchen. She grabbed the biggest pan she could find and went back into the courtyard. Here she filled it to the brim with thick, gloopy oil. Rushing back into the kitchen, she set the pan into a crackling fire. As soon as it bubbled and spat, she picked up the pan and took it out into the courtyard. Majana kills the thieves in their jars. Then she went to serve the food and wine.
Meanwhile, the captain hatched a bloodthirsty scheme. No need to call my men, he thought. It would give me great pleasure to deal with this cockroach myself. I would get them drunk and wait for them to sleep, and then I will slice my enemy in two like a ripe watermelon.
However, Majana had spotted the captain of the 40 thieves' knife through his clothes and knew what he was up to. She put on her dancer's veil.
I give you your freedom from this moment, and if you will agree, my son's hand in hand.
Far from refusing, his son was delighted.
And 3 days later,
With a sacred blessing and extravagant feast, they were married.
So you think he was happy, the son of Ali Baba? He married a crafty cunning woman. He's sure to be tricked by and lied to and crushed by the scheming slave girl.
Your Majesty, the story suggests otherwise.
His story is written by a liar.
The headsman's waiting outside, my lord.
What a shame, for tonight I was to tell you the intriguing tale of... Sorry, Your Majesty, I speak out of turn.
Yes, you do.
I just can't contain my excitement when I think about this story. It's my favourite. Once, there lived a tailor with a pretty and faithful wife. One day, they bumped into a jolly little beggar.
You fancy a giggle, I'll cartwheel or a wriggle. If I cheer you up, empty your purse and fill my cup.
The tailor and his wife took so strongly to the little beggar that they asked him to come home with them to eat. They all sat down to a delicious meal of bread and fish.
They ate and they drank until they'd nearly finished everything.
Except for one large fish.
I know. I bet you can't swallow this whole. They prod him. They check him. He's stone dead.
Well, don't just sit there, do something!
What do you suggest?
You and your practical jokes! Ha! Bloody ha!
I didn't know we were going to drop dead, did I?
Well, we better do something quick, or we'll find ourselves hanged as murderers!
Oh my word.
Be quiet! I'm hunting. I know. Wrap him in a blanket, pick him up, and follow me.
And the tailor did as his wife said.
We led the way through the streets, wailing and shrieking.
My child! My child! I pray that you be cured of the smallpox!
Passers-by exclaimed.
her child is ill with smallpox.
Soon they arrived to the house of a doctor.
A maid answered,
Miss, please give this coin to your master. Ask him to come see my child who is gravely ill.
Master, there is a gravely ill child downstairs with its parents. They gave me this quarter piece of gold for you.
Light, girl, quickly, light.
Put down the beggar and run.
The doctor was down the stairs in the dark, and not seeing the little beggar, he tripped over the stairs and kicked it all the way down.
Here's a candle, master.
You dozy mare, why didn't you bring it to me sooner? Look what you made me do. I've killed the patient I was supposed to cure. If word gets around, my reputation will be ruined and I'll never work again. So he took the little beggar upstairs to his wife and told her what happened.
You're neither use nor ornament. What are you doing standing there for with a face like a bottle of wart? It's not your reputation you need to worry about, it's your life. If the day breaks and he is still here, we'll find ourselves hanged as murderers.
So then what do you suppose we do?
I know. Let's drop him down the chimney of our next-door neighbour, the King's Steward. Cats and dogs often eat his larder clean of meat and butter. Perhaps they will eat up this body.
Just then the King's Steward came home. What's this? So it's not the cats and dogs who've been eating my meat and butter after all. It's a man. I'll soon put a stop to that. Oh! Curses on my meat and butter! I killed him! Heaven help me, what am I going to do?
So the steward carried the little beggar to the marketplace, then lent him up against the shop. At that moment, a merchant, the king's broker, staggered by and tied his shoelace. It's not my fault, watchman. He tried to rob me.
You killed him! You're coming with me! And the watchman took the chief of police, took the merchant to the chief of police.
Hello. Who threw him in a cell and next morning went to tell the king.
And the king ordered the merchant to be hanged.
And the chief went to the hangman.
You set up a gallows and announced the execution.
Stop! It wasn't the merchant who killed the little beggar. It was me. It was me.
What did you say?
It was me. I killed the little beggar.
and the steward told how he hit the little beggar with a stick and left him in the marketplace.
Don't hang him, hang me!
Release the merchant and hang the steward.
Stop! It wasn't the steward that killed the little beggar, it was me! It was me! And the doctor told him how I'd kicked the little beggar down the stairs and dropped him down the chimney of the steward. Please don't hang him, hang me!
Release the steward and hang the doctor.
Stop! It wasn't the doctor who killed the little beggar, it was me! And the tailor told her we'd chalked the little beggar on a fishbone and left him at the house of the doctor. Don't hang him, hang me!
I've never heard the like. Release the doctor and hang the tailor. Any more interruption and I'll hang the lot of you. What is
The
it?
little beggar is still breathing. If you fancy a wiggle, if I cheer you up, empty your purse and fill my
Of the extraordinary story of the little beggar's death and the even more extraordinary story of his recovery.
It is said that in the city of Kalkaban in Yemen, there lived a man who was the wealthiest of merchants, called Abu Hassan. His wife died when she was very young, and his friends were always pressing for him to marry again.
So wary of being nabbed, Abu Hassan spoke to an old woman.
A marriage broker.
Who found him a wife with eyes as dark as the desert night and a face as fresh as the dawn.
They arranged a sumptuous wedding banquet and invited
Uncles and aunts, preachers and fakirs, friends and foes,
And the great.
And the good from all around.
the whole house was thrown open for feasting. There was rice of 5 colours, sherbets and many more, goats covered with walnuts,
And a whole roast camel.
so they ate and drank and made merry.
And the bride was displayed, as in her custom, in her 7 dresses towards the women.
who couldn't take their eyes off her. When the bridegroom was summoned to go up to his wife, he rose with stately dignity from the sofa, when all of a sudden he let fly a huge, deafening fart.
Immediately, each guest turned to his neighbour and busied himself in pressing conversation.
As if his life depended on it.
But a fire of shame was lit on Abu Hassan's heart. So he excused himself, and instead of going to his wife, he went down to the stables, saddled his horse, and rode off, weeping bitter tears into the blackness of the night. After 10 years of peace and well-being, he longed to see his homeland like a lost child longed to see its mother. I hope no one recognises me. I shall wander around the streets and listen to people's gossip. God grant no one remembers my shameful deed. After 7 days and 7 nights of wandering round the outskirts of the town, he found himself sat on the doorstep. From inside, he heard the voice of a young girl.
Mother, tell me which day I was born. One of my friends wants to tell my fortune. You were born on one of the most memorable nights in the history of this country. A night so monumental that it will be enshrined in our records till the very end of time. A night so talked about that everyone from king to beggar remembers the date. For you were born on the very night that Abu Hassan did his historic fart.
Did you enjoy the story, my lord?
Your Majesty, the husband awaits your command.
Tonight I had planned to tell you a special story about another king who loses his way. It is called The Story Without an Ending. But although it is very short, I can't seem to remember it. The well of my stories has run dry. I fear I must go to the headsman.
The headsman cannot act without royal decree. Curses on your impudence. Go on then, imbecile. Get out. Vizier, see it done.
Yes, my lord.
If you fancy a giggle, I'll cartwheel or I'll wiggle. If I cheer you up, empty your purse and fill my cup.
Hang me.
insist on following this ridiculous tale, I shall not stand in your way.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
But before you go, I have one last request.
How may I be of help?
Try to remember your story, the story without an ending.
Very well. Listen. Once there lived a strong, brave king who loved to laugh. One day he was betrayed by his foolish wife. He lost all his love of women and his happiness.
There is not a single good woman anywhere on the face of the earth.
Although the good king of old looked the same on the outside, he was replaced by a cruel and merciless tyrant. Each night he would marry a different woman, and the next morning he would have her killed. This way, no one could ever cheat on him again, and he was safe. Darkness spread from the king's heart around the palace and hung heavy over the city. Now the king's vizier had 2 daughters, and the eldest was blessed with a magic power. When she saw the king, she knew that she was fated to love him.
With a love as true as the stars and as mysterious as the moon.
The daughter was called Shahrazad, and her magic was the magic of stories. And night after moonlit night, she would pour the magic medicine of her stories into his ears. And little by little, day started to break in the king's heart, and a tiny flower laid its precious roots there. And news that the king no longer lived in darkness spread throughout the land and over the sparkling sea, bathing those that heard it in a warm light. After a long, long time, the queen found that she was expecting the king's baby. And after 1,001 nights, she tested the king to see if the flower in his heart had bloomed and whether he was ready to save the life of his wife and unborn child.
When the king heard this news, he realized he loved Shahrazad more than any story could tell. So he asked her if she could find it in her heart to forgive him for all the terrible things he had done, and whether or not she could help him to make amends.
And she replied that the time for suffering was over.
Vizier,
Yes, my lord.
published in the city that King Shariah has lifted the death sentence on Queen Shahrazad.
Certainly, my lord.
Oh, and Vizier,
Yes, my lord.
have the day off.
Thank you, my lord.
Now let us celebrate the freedom of our gracious queen.
And the welcome return of the good king.
Celebrations spread throughout the land.
with eating and drinking and dancing for many days.
Afterwards, in honour of the young women who had lost their lives, he invited scribes and scholars from all over the land.
To write down each one of Shahrazad's enchanting stories into a book.
One story for each of the young women.
And one story for each night the king's heart lived in darkness.
And the book lived longer than the king.
And Shahrazad.
And their children.
And their children's children.
Even the city itself.
And the book was called Aflayla Lawayla.
1,001 nights.
But even now, when the desert sky is as dark as doom,
And the sun glows silver in the moonlight.
On the site where the old city used to be.
You can hear the sweet voice of a beautiful young woman weaving magical tales into the night.
Listen.